Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a concept that's, well, it's going to completely reframe how you view your everyday inconveniences. We are looking at the absolute worst times in history to be born. Because human history isn't just this nice, neat highlight reel of progress. Actually, it's a brutal, gritty story of surviving against literally impossible odds. So go ahead and get comfortable, because we're going to take a trip back in time to see exactly what our ancestors had to endure, just so we could be sitting here right now. Think you have it hard? I really want you to consider that for a second. Today, we get so frustrated by, slow Wi-Fi, traffic jams, a package that's a day late. We live in this unbelievable era of climate-controlled homes, grocery stores just packed with food, and modern medicine. But when you frame our modern existence against the backdrop of history, it reveals something pretty astonishing. Being alive right now is an incredible, almost unbelievable stroke of luck. When we compare our daily annoyances to the relentless, freezing, disease-ridden horrors of the past, man, our sense of modern security absolutely shatters. For the vast majority of human existence, simply waking up and making it to the end of the day, that was a monumental victory.
To really grasp this, let's set the chronological stage for the unstoppable human journey we're about to explore. We're going to start 74,000 years ago with the Toba eruption, a massive geological cataclysm. Then we jump to 20,000 years ago, plunging straight into the freezing depths of the last ice age. From there, we move to 10,000 years ago, a huge turning point with the dawn of agriculture. And finally, we'll enter the relatively recent past, examining the man-made devastation of the Mongol Invasions in the 13th century and the absolute biological nightmare of the Black Death in the 14th century. You see, these aren't just dates on a timeline, they represent millions of individual stories of suffering, resilience, and honestly, sheer biological luck.
So here's our survival roadmap for today. First, the Toba volcanic winter. Second, surviving the Ice Age. Third, the dawn of agriculture. Fourth, the Mongol invasions. And fifth, the Black Death. Let's unpack how anyone managed to survive these at all.
Section 1. The Toba volcanic winter. 74,000 years ago, a supervolcano in what's now Indonesia just massively erupted, launching thousands of cubic kilometers of rock and ash straight up into the atmosphere. It completely blocked out the sun, plunging the Earth into a freezing, starving volcanic winter. And because of this sudden collapse of the global food chain, the human population dropped to a devastatingly low number, an estimated 3,000 to 10,000 breeding individuals worldwide. That is literally it. So the crucial point is, think about that scale. All of human progress, all of our diverse cultures, every single person alive today descends from that tiny, localized group of survivors. The sheer improbability of our existence is staggering when you realize our entire species was almost snuffed out before civilization even got started.
All right, moving to Section 2, surviving the Ice Age. Imagine your chances of surviving in a frozen tundra where simply stepping outside your cave literally meant you could freeze to death. Oh, and you had to hunt massive, dangerous megafauna like actual mammoths just to get enough calories to live. We complain about winter temperatures while we're sitting in our heated cars, right? But during the last glacial maximum, average global temperatures plummeted. Mile-high glaciers covered massive portions of the northern hemisphere. Our ancestors survived this brutal reality, not with modern conveniences, but through just sheer grit. They sewed animal skins together using bone needles, and they mastered fire. Every single day was a literal battle against the elements. If your fire went out, you and your family were done for. It was a severe, completely unforgiving everyday reality. Section 3, the dawn of agriculture. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights an incredibly deadly, yet ironic transition. We usually think of farming as our greatest leap forward, the big innovation that allowed us to build cities and civilizations. But ironically, settling down was actually a short-term death trap. It triggered this counterintuitive domino effect. First, farming begins and we stop hunting and gathering. Second, populations start to cluster into these dense, stationary, and frankly, highly unsanitary villages. And third, diets worsen and disease spreads like wildfire. See, hunter-gatherers had highly varied diets, but early farmers relied almost entirely on just 1 or 2 staple crops, which led to massive nutritional deficiencies. But the real killer? Living packed tightly together with domesticated animals, like pigs and cows, with absolutely no plumbing. This created a massive breeding ground for entirely new zoonotic diseases like smallpox, measles, and influenza. So for generations, staying in one place actually made life significantly worse. Crazy, right? Jumping into Section 4, the Mongol Invasions.
And here's where things get truly chaotic. Let's fast forward to the 13th century. Up until now, we've talked about geological shifts, climate changes, and biological hurdles. But under Genghis Khan and his successors, the rapidly expanding Mongol Empire created a man-made societal catastrophe of just unimaginable proportions. Looking at the data, it's estimated that these invasions wiped out roughly 11% of the entire global population at the time. To put that into perspective, tens of millions of people perished, entire thriving cities were laid to siege, and the social order across 2 continents was violently upended. If you were born in a city in the path of the Mongol hordes, your chances of surviving the sieges, the ensuing famines, and the complete collapse of your local economy were incredibly slim.
Finally, Section 5, the Black Death. Let's move to and see how this builds into an absolute biological nightmare.
If you somehow survived the shifting climate, the early diseases of agriculture, and those devastating wars, well, you still had to face the ultimate biological nightmare in the 14th century, the plague. This was a catastrophic epidemic caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which was carried by fleas on rats. It swept through Europe, Asia, and North Africa with terrifying speed. People would be completely healthy in the morning and literally dead by the next night. The symptoms were agonizing, and medical knowledge at the time was entirely powerless to stop it. Doctors were useless, prayers seemed unanswered, and the very fabric of society just began to tear apart.
And this brilliantly illustrates the rapid societal collapse that followed. This unprecedented biological threat wiped out an estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of Europe's entire population. Fields went unplowed, trade stopped entirely, and families tragically abandoned their sick loved ones out of sheer terror. And perhaps the most frightening reality of all this, survival meant pure chance. It really didn't matter if you were a king in a fortified castle or a peasant out in a field. If an infected flea reached you, you were likely going to die. When you connect this back to your life today, I mean, how profoundly lucky are we to live in an age of antibiotics, germ theory, and advanced modern medicine?
Which brings us to why this all really matters. You are the result of an unbroken chain of survivors. Think about your family tree stretching back thousands of years. Every single one of your direct ancestors had to survive the Toba volcanic winter. They had to survive the freezing, starving conditions of the Ice Age, the brutal diseases of early agriculture, the violence of the Mongol invasions, and the terrifying randomness of the Black Death. If just one of those ancestors at any point in the last 74,000 years had failed to survive long enough to pass on their genes, you would not be sitting here today. Your very existence is a mathematical anomaly. It is a stunning testament to relentless human resilience. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. How would you have fared if you were stripped of your smartphone, your central heating, your grocery store, your antibiotics, and placed right into the freezing tundra of the Ice Age or the plague-ridden streets of 14th century Europe? Do you have what it takes to survive? It truly makes you appreciate the incredible, unlikely gift of living right here, right now. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this sparks your curiosity to dive even deeper into the fascinating, resilient history of humanity.